Hi everyone, and welcome to my channel where we discuss the Power Platform. Today's episode I'm super excited about. We'll be talking about mixed reality within Power Apps, which is a new feature that came out in May of 2020, so we're very hot off the press in terms of when this video is coming out. I'm not sure when you'll be actually viewing it or first coming across it. We're going to look at the various components within Power Apps that you can use within the new mixed reality space and how to create an app completely from scratch. So there are a few links on here that I think are very useful when starting out with this. So the first is the Microsoft articles, of course. For such a new feature of Power Apps that is out there, I relied heavily on using the different articles within here. So I'm going to reference some of the key bits within my slides as well, but obviously go to the source for some more information. Secondly, Reza Durrani, he's actually posted a video about this astronaut that he's created, which is all about NASA aircraft and 3D models. So that was an amazing way for me to start kind of exposing myself to how this mixed reality could be used within Power Apps. Thirdly, so mixed reality is all about using 3D models and viewing them within Power Apps. Of course, we need 3D models. So I had a look out there, and one of the things that I found was this Sketchfab. So I'm actually going to show you how I use the models from there and how I ended up getting them into Power Apps. That's a great place to find different models. There are some paid models in there as well, but in my demo, I've just used free models. You know, the world's your oyster in terms of what you can find there. I then used this GLTF to GLB packer, which is essentially a converter. So all Power Apps mixed models need to be in this GLB format. So I used this website here. It was a very easy drag and drop tool. At this point, I'm using all public data, so I don't really have to worry too much about sensitivity, etc. But of course, look into that if that's a concern for you. And thirdly, I've included my GitHub here, which is where I've actually stored the 3D models. Now, in order for Power Apps to utilize these 3D models, they need to be hosted publicly and anonymously because Power Apps is actually communicating with the web. This also means you can't actually do this offline, as far as I'm aware. So yeah, keep that in mind when you start developing these tools. So as we get started with this application, I wanted to show you what's being built. And we are going to step through this step by step and actually go through how to do this from scratch. So I'm going to demonstrate some of the different components within the 3D models within Power Apps. So the first one here, you've got this view 3D objects. So what you can do is get these 3D objects, for example, maybe you're in a furniture store or some kind of space where you'd want to show your users how an object would look in real. So you've got this chair here, you kind of swivel it around, have a look, turn it upside down, have a look how the bottom is, same here. And these are all images that I got from Sketchfab, which I'll show you how to import later. And then you've got this chair at the bottom here. So the first thing we'll do is we'll pick one of these images. So I'm actually going to pick this one at the bottom here because I quite like this. I'm going to click view in mixed reality. Now you are looking at my phone, which is being casted, so apologies if the quality isn't as good. It's a little bit pixelated, but couldn't seem to quite get that to work. So I'm now showing the view in mixed reality. So let's just give this a few seconds to warm up. So I have found it does take a little while to kind of get started. Just give that a second, and here we are. Now, when you first load it up, you have to kind of move your phone around a little bit because it's kind of a customing phone and the camera to where it is. So I've just placed a little stool over here, so I can swivel that around. I can move it backwards, which will make it a little bit smaller. I can just place it in this corner. Now what I could do is, I'm just going to see how far my wire actually goes here. I can walk around it. I can have a look. I can have a look under it, see what it's looking like, look at the top, and so on and so forth. So there we are, an image in mixed reality. Now what I can do is I've got this feature to actually take a photo. So I can take this photo, which now if I go back, I've actually put that photo in my application. So that is awesome. So let's have a look at what else we can do within this application. So I'm now going to look at one of the second components within this application that we'll be building, which is the view shape in mixed reality. Now what you can do is you can place a cube within your space. So I've got my living room in front of me, as you can see. I can set the width and height and depth of this cube. I can select the unit of measurement. So let's try a centimetre cube here. So I'm going to do 50 centimetres by 50 centimetres by 50 centimetres. And hit this place a cube, which is a thing I have in there. And similarly, we have to kind of move this around, give it some space. And I put that cube here. Now you can see I can walk around it, so it's not actually there. Put my hand out, and you know, if I was measuring something and I wanted to know if it would fit, I could take a picture. I could say this is how my object looks within here, and I can actually then view these pictures in my Power Apps and view these measurements, which is awesome, which is a great way of actually bringing your users into the space. The last thing we'll be looking at within this application is this measure in mixed reality. So let's have a look at what we can do. So what we can do in this one is we can actually set a unit of measurement. So either we've got centimeters or feet or inches or meters here, and I can select whether I want to do an area, a volume, or a distance. So let's go for centimeters. Let's go for an area. So I'm going to try and measure this laptop right here, so I just kind of glide it along a little bit so that it gets used to my space. You can see there. If I click add up here now, it's going to start drawing. So every time I click add, it's putting a little point. And then up here, so I'm a bit off there, but it's okay. And I can submit that. Just actually measured that. Now you can see that I've got this path length of 111. I should have actually put the measurement type in there, but I didn't include that, so that's okay. So it's telling me that this laptop here is about 111 centimeters cubed, so squared even. So let's have a start thinking about what we can do to actually start creating this app within the canvas mode. I'm just going to point at some of these articles here, so they do have a lot of content that I'm going to be referring to, but of course we need some 3D models to actually start with before we can get into building our model tip. So we go into this website called Sketchfab. Now I did have to make an account. I've just got this keyboard that I was looking at, but essentially you can start a search for instruments here, and you'll see that there are some which have prices within them, and there are some which they just kind of show it and you can have a look at it, but it doesn't seem purchasable. But wherever you see this kind of download icon, these are the actual things you can pick up and put into your application. So I quite like the look of this guitar. Let's give that a go. So it will load that 3D model, take a few seconds to kind of load up there and have a swivel around, have a look at how it's doing. We can then download this 3D model onto our machine. I'm going to choose this GLTF format. So we'll get that to open up. And then if we show that in folder, we do need to extract these files. So extract all, put it in the same place. It's going to make that window a little bit smaller. And from here on, I then use this GLB converter, which converts GLTF files into GLB. And it's quite a simple drag and drop exercise, so just drag them onto there. The actual file contents. So if you go in and open up the files within here, so there's a scene file and a bin file. Sometimes there are texture files as well. Now I've got this file here which is called out, which is not as great, so let's call that guitar so that we can come back to it. And this is actually the file that we need to use. I then go over to GitHub, and I've actually got I've got an out there as well, which is one of my first experiments. I've got my 4 chairs that I put in there, so I can upload a file into here. I can just drag it in as well, so lots of dragging and dropping here. Put my guitar in. I have found that sometimes if the file is too big, it doesn't quite like it, but that's fine. I commit changes. Now I have my guitar ready to use in my Power Apps. Now that we have our files here, we're going to head over to Power Apps and start building an application. So we'll build a new application. So we're going to start from scratch here so that you're with me every step of the way. We'll choose a phone layout. Just give that a second to populate. I am going to cheat in one respect though. I'm going to pick up the the first page, because they're just kind of buttons and things that take you to various other pages. So there's nothing particularly exciting happening there. I am going to use the theme that I had in there, which is, I think it was this kind of blue one here. And I have this image that I'd used as a bit of a nice thing. Now it's gonna obviously moan at me a little bit because these pages don't exist. So we'll go ahead and set some basics up. So that's a home page there. We have a page that is going to be called media. So we'll put that in like so. And it's media, capital M, so that it picks it up. Now we have a page called view in mixed reality. So we'll put that one in as well. View in mixed reality. You have to check that. Oh, that was good. And view shape. So that's the shape one that we'll be doing. Okay. And then we have our view shape without a space. We'll correct that. And we have this one here, which is measure MR. Okay, so now we've got rid of, I hope, all of our errors. Oh, I've spelled measure wrong there. That's okay. Spell it right here. Great. So all I've got within these buttons here is navigate to the pages. All it's doing, navigate, 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 nothing fancy right there. I'm actually going to take this opportunity to chuck in my home button as well, so I don't have to think too much about the various components. So it's just a home icon. Quite similarly, it's just going to go back to the home page. I'll just put that top right so that we can always navigate back. We're not going to get stuck. Call it home page right there. Chuck it on every page like this. I'm doing this very quickly in order to show. I've got that right there as well. Now we can get started. So let's have a quick look around the app and see what kind of things that need to actually be incorporated. First thing you need to do is actually turn the settings on. So you go into these settings here and into advanced settings, scroll down, and in your experimental features, I think it's right at the bottom here, you've got this mixed reality. So it says view 3D models and images in mixed reality and enable measurement functions, distance, area, volumetric creation on both Android and iOS devices. It goes without saying we need a mobile device to actually get this working. Right, so let's see what's happened here. So we have this mixed reality. We have view in MR, view shape in MR, and measure in shape, measure in MR, which we'll go through. But there's a fourth way in which we can actually see this, is you've got media and you've got view in 3D. Okay, so let's start with this view in 3D. So we're going to start on our view in 3D page. I'm going to put in this image, view in 3D. And the only thing I need to do really is connect up to my source. Okay. So if we go into our sources here, we've got this chair GLB, for example. I can copy this and I can put this into my source like so, but it will not work. Okay, so that's one of the first challenges I encountered. Put it in and stared at it thinking, I don't get it. It's just unexpected characters, it's just not very happy. If we head over to the Microsoft documentation now, I've actually put this into a few different steps here. Put this into reading view. So one of the first things on there is important. Your 3D content must be in GLB format. So I've put these steps as how to use GitHub. I know there are various other methods out there that could be used, but we're going to focus on how I've actually been able to put it together. So you use GitHub, ensure that the Git repo is set to public. This is really important. So you navigate to your file and you'll see that the file name actually has this blob section here. You then want to replace the first bit, which is https github.com, with this section here. This actually gives the raw access to the file. Okay, so let's have a go at that. So first we need to remove the blob. So we'll come into here, take the blob section out of our file name, and I'm just going to come over here so that I can copy this. So where it says .com, I'm actually going to take up this section here and use that instead. So up to here. Okay, and make that all joined up. Of course, we don't want that with right there. Okay, and then I'm gonna put this into quotation, so it's actually just a text file there, and you can see it's loading, and I'm not actually sure if it will, yeah, it will move in here as well. So our chair is nice and swivelly and existing within our space. Okay, and this can be, you know, like the way I did it in here is I put it into a few different images here, but you can put this in a gallery. This can be, you know, in various different components. The world's your oyster here, really, in terms of what you can achieve. It was quite easy for me because I could just change, because I named them quite intentionally. I named them like so. Now, the other thing I did within my application is I had a button that said View in MR. Right. So the reason I did that is I actually want to take this into another page. So what I did when I had this button is I'm setting, and I created this variable, and we'll call it mixed source, and I'm going to reference this view in 3D. So I'm going to say, when you click on this, set this as the source. So you've got this src, so it's going to pick up that file name to be used in the next sections. And then when we navigate, I'm going to navigate to the pages where I can actually view. So that's called View in MR for me. And now when I go through to this page, it's going to have a source ready. Okay, so I'm not going to set up the rest of these buttons because it's done the same way. You pick up your source, etc. So let's move on to the next section. Right, so we've looked at the first view media section in here. We're now going to look at this and how we can view this in our mixed reality workspace. Now, as I said, I created this button here in the previous step, and I'm going to go through and we can check our mixed source. We can see what it's saying up here. And we have that URL, which is all ready for us. And now I'm going to use this view in MR. And the source of this view in MR is always going to be mixed reality. And that way you've got this usability experience within your Power App with your user coming in, picking their image and then going through and having a look at it in their space. Of course, if I click on this here, it's going to say it's not supported because I'm in a browser creating this. So you need to publish it and have a look there. Now, another thing I've done on this page within the application I demoed is I actually then said, okay, well, what are the outputs of this view in MR? And the output that you get when you look at the documentation is the image file. Okay, so I just selected these photos, and just for the demonstration, I decided just to show the first photo within this file. And there you are. Okay, and I put a border around it just so that we can identify it when it's in our application and we're wondering what it is. And so now whenever I take the photos within this view in MR, it's actually going to appear over here and my users can have a look at it. Of course, we can store these in a collection and patch them back to a SharePoint or any other location as well. That was view in MR. Now let's have a look at our view shape in mixed reality. So I'll go through to this page. Going to insert a mixed reality component, which is view shape in MR. And now if I have a look at the features that I can use within this cube, I've got a shape width, I've got a shape height, I've got a shape depth, and I've got a unit of measurement. Now I wanted my user to be actually able to pick these elements on the screen, which is why what I did is I put in a text input, and I want this to be a number, of course, because I'm going to be looking at that height to begin with. And I'm going to call this height R for ease. And what I then did is I put a default in here as well as 1, so we start with something. And here I'm now going to go into the various options which I have, and for my shape height I have this one that's set, but I can just select height MR as height. Of course, you could use a drop down as well, or various other components. And then what I did, so I'm not going to repeat those steps with the depth and the width, but they're made in a similar way. And then I put in a drop down for the values within here. So within here, in fact. So you've got your unit of measurements. So I can put in meters or feet. So I'm just going to put a couple of those in. And it is an American spelling here, so watch out for that. I didn't actually find a way of exporting that list, but it might actually be there in some documentation. So just to show, you've got, I'm going to say units here, and then similar to that, I'm actually going to put in the unit of measurement here. Sorry, I just had to blow my nose, and I'm still looking for it. So it'll be here somewhere. Units, got that. Units dot selected text dot value. So that's that one here, and similarly we can actually take a photo output for this as well. So I'm not going to demonstrate that because that's quite similar to what was shown in the previous one. So let's go ahead and look at our last feature here, which is the measure in mixed reality. So in here, quite similarly, I'm going to put in the mixed reality option here, which is the measure in MR. Put that down here. And quite similar to how I did the view shape, I did put in some text boxes and some drop downs. So again, to not repeat stuff within this video, I'm not going to show that bit again. What I will show is the outputs from here. So I had a look at what kind of outputs were actually being generated, and I can see quite quickly that you have this details pane that comes out of this measure in MR when you close it. So what I did is I had a look at this measurements detailed, and when you have a look at the fields, you can add in a height, path, and a unit. Now segments is the various segments you do whenever you actually do a complicated object. So it's because it's a complicated column, it won't show as clearly there. So there you are. Now what you could do is collect this information, put it somewhere, put it in a database, store these things. You can get your users to measure things and store everything. So that is how you create a mixed reality application. I hope you enjoyed that whirlwind tour of mixed reality within Power Apps. I'm really excited to hear what people have been doing in this space. I'm definitely going to be exploring it for one, so watch the space in terms of what kind of more functional applications we can build. I really hope this helped someone out there to get integrated with Power Apps or introduced to Power Apps and excited as I am within Power Apps. Do hit the subscribe button below, like, share, let me know what else you want to see. Thank you very much.